This is the prep packet video for Unit 4, Chapter 9.8, and then we're working on objective number 7, which is where we learn to simplify the powers of I. Now, you've already seen what happens if you multiply I by itself. We start out with I in its simplest form, which is, remember, I equals the square root of -1. Now, if I take I and I square it, then I get -1. And if I take I to the third power, well, that's just I squared, which is -1 times I. So that turns into -I. And finally, if I get all the way to I to the fourth, it's I squared squared. So -1 squared is 1. This is really a very important progression that I want you to be able to learn. Because once you can do that, you can simplify higher powers. So here, for instance, we have I to the fifth, and they've reminded you that that's the same as saying I to the fourth times I to the first. Okay, because 4 plus 1 is 5. And if you know that this is the same as 1, then you just have to deal with what's left over. So it's 1 times I, or I. If you come to a slightly higher power, here we have I to the sixth. So that's I squared, which is -I, to the third power. So it's -1. Another way you could think about this is that it's I to the fourth times I to the second. Well, that's just 1, right? So I to the second is -1. So, and this pattern repeats itself so that all the powers of I can be simplified to these 4 states. So let's take a look at this one. This is I to the eighth, which is pretty easy because you can break that exponent up into I to the fourth times I to the fourth. And if you know that I to the fourth is 1, and there it is again, it's just 1. Here you have to the 14th. So 4 goes into that 3 times. So I have I to the fourth to the third power. And what's left over? I squared. So that's just 1. And I squared is -1. Here I have, I'm going to ask myself the same question. How many times does 4 fit into 11? Well, that's I to the fourth to the second power times I to the third. Anytime I have I to the fourth, it's just 1. And I to the third is -I. So that's all I'm going to end up with. Here, this is getting a little fancier, but think to yourself, 4 goes into 37 9 times. So that's I to the fourth to the ninth power, which is 1. And what's left over? I to the first, which is the square root of -1. So, like I say, if you think about it in terms of, it reminds me a lot of when we were factoring out radicals and squares. So here we go. Let's try some more. Here's I to the 12th. So that's, you think of your little division problem over on the side. How many times does 4 go into 12? Well, 3 times. So that's I to the fourth to the third power. But I to the fourth is 1, so that's just 1. Here I have I to the 15th. 4 goes into 15 3 times, so I have I to the fourth to the third power, and what's left over? 3. And I to the third is -I. Here, same thing. 4 goes into 22 5 times, so I have I to the fourth to the fifth power. and left over is 2. So I squared is -1. Here I have 41. 4 goes into 41 10 times. So that's I to the 4th to the 10th power times I. That's just 1, and all you have left is I. I think if you just work on it that way, you will end up with probably the cleanest way of doing it. The book tells you a slightly different method, but either way. So finally, you're going to check on page 597 for the U tries and turn those in with your work. And that's it for 9.8. See you next time.